What is up, guys? I'm excited because we got another episode, another bonus round with Zach, Keith, and Luke. And in today's episode, we have Jared Breedlove. He started off in the program in southern rural Arkansas, has really scaled and grown since then, and is an incredible guy. Very introverted guy. So for those of you that are maybe super introverted, you think you're not going to do well in the program, I would say Jared is very introverted by nature and has really succeeded in a major way inside the program. So with that being said, check out this interview with Jared, and I hope you enjoy it. All right. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another bonus round with Zach, Keith, and Luke. Keith, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Luke, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Happy Wednesday, and I'm ready to get at it. We got a good one today.
Yeah, today's going to be a great day. And so our guest on the podcast today, on the show today, incredible guy located in Arkansas. We got Jared Breedlove on the show. Jared, how you doing, man?
I am doing good. Glad to be here.
Hey, glad you're here. And so just as we dive in today, the goal is just to have a conversation, hang out, kind of talk about your business, talk about who you are as a person, as a man, and then also a little bit about your experience in the program. I know a lot of guys out there are listening to this that are maybe on the fence, considering the program, curious how it's working. And so first off, who are you? Where are you located? And how did you first come across some of my stuff?
Yeah, my name is Jared Breedlove, and I own Beloved Furniture. I am in Northwest Arkansas, basically like in the home of like Walmart.
Yeah.
I got started in Southeast Arkansas, which is two totally different worlds. And I can kind of get into that in a little bit later. But so I kind of started like woodworking in high school. I kind of just like piddled with it for about 10 years, just as like a hobby, playing around with it. They didn't really take it like serious or anything. But every year, through my job, we like supported this charity, and I would do this. I would like build a project every year to donate to it. I would try my target was like to raise like $1,000 every year at this charity event. But like one year, I built a coffee table, and a lady wanted a dining table built like it afterwards, after she bought the coffee table. And that was like my first sale, and that was kind of like the first start of it transitioning from a hobby to a business.
Nice.
So like after that, I mainly got business through like kind of like everybody else, word of mouth, Facebook Marketplace, did a lot of craft shows, which I absolutely hated. I always felt like it was like you were like an exhibit at a museum. It's just like everybody walking by. And they were always like a crapshoot. It was never predictable. Like you would think that you could like count on this one show or whatever, and then you go back the next year and it would be like complete opposite.
Yeah.
So none of that was like ever like predictable. And again, I'm doing this mostly in like Southeast Arkansas.
Which dive into that for just a second, if you don't mind. I don't want to pull you off track, but like, what does the market look like in Southeast Arkansas? Is there a whole lot going on, or is it pretty rural down there?
Yeah, so my kind of explain like my background was in forestry, which to have a good industry in forestry means you have to be in the middle of nowhere with a lot of trees.
Yeah.
So like it's in the middle of nowhere, like Podunk, whatever you think of Arkansas, like that's Southeast Arkansas.
Yeah.
And then so I don't know if I mentioned this a lot, but like I also had a small TikTok following before I got in the program. I had grown to like 22,000 followers on TikTok, doing just like time-lapse videos of my builds. And I like sold some plans through that, and I got a couple of table sales through that. But now I haven't even like touched the TikTok account in like a year. But
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
I'm not the guy that like puts my face on camera. So like I said, it was just like time lapse stuff.
Just
Right.
videos of your cool stuff.
Yeah. And I had like what it was, like I got on TikTok like early, and I had one video, you know how like random it was back in the early on, like you could just get like a video that went viral, and that's what happened. And I got like 20,000 followers from like one video. So
Nice.
but again, nothing like repeatable or like steady,
Right. So
Um,
you started in Southeast Arkansas. What took you to Northwest Arkansas, and how's your business kind of just developed and grown since those early days? Like, where were you at when you decided to join the program, and what did those challenges kind of look like?
So the plan for business kind of changed in like 21, 22. It was kind of just like a hobby to have fun and make, kind of cover your costs of the business. But we were kind of blessed with an incredible opportunity to move to Northwest Arkansas. It's where my wife's from. And like I mentioned earlier, like it's the home of Walmart, Tyson, JB Hunt, all these big, huge corporations. It's a very,
Booming area.
yeah, very great, nice area.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of positives to living there. But the only problem was in Southeast Arkansas, I was already like almost 10 years into my career as a wood buying forester. I had a good job. I had a great boss, great company. My boss was a great mentor. Like I could go to him. Like I was in like a great position, like with my job, and I didn't hate my job. And I feel like that's like for some people, like they hate their job. I didn't hate my job. I liked my position. So it's like you were like torn, like, okay, I could like move to this great location or, stay with my job. And it was like torn. So after like a lot of prayer and consideration, we decided to we were like, okay, in a couple of years after I get established myself, we're going to make this move. So for 2 years, we were like planning to build and move to Northwest Arkansas. But in order to do that, I had to figure out how to make this business work. And it was in this process and in this time that I found your podcast. I don't remember exactly when, but it was some point during during this time frame. And I probably listened to the podcast like working out in the shop for like a good 6 to 12 months. Like just listening to it, and I would take like little pieces of the podcast and try to implement it in my business. Like obviously, you run ads, and I would try to run ads, and I wasn't getting results. So I got like a little bit of hit every now and then, but nothing like substantial. So I was like, it's like I'm not doing something right there. But that's what like I found your podcast. That's what kind of drove me to you. And I can give you like kind of a couple reasons. The reason why I decided like reach out to you one day. It's like number one, and this is the most important, was that I found out you were from Arkansas.
Yeah, come on.
But the real reason was I looked at like a couple other people that kind of did the same thing, and none of them had like an established business that was doing what we were doing, and
Yeah.
that like there was like a proven track record. Like one guy didn't even do it. Like he was just offering like marketing advice, and then these other people were just trying to get started. So having the experience of somebody that knows what they're talking about like really mattered, and what made like actually gave me the like, okay, like I can probably trust this guy, and he can help me out.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to be said for that. Actually having skin in the game, doing what you're teaching as opposed to just jumping into the teaching side of things. So
Yeah, and
yeah.
that goes for like any mentor. If there's someone that's doing something that you want to do one day, or someone that's doing it a little bit ahead of you, asking for help. Hey, how do you do that? Hey, I'm trying to get to this point. Do you have any advice? Not just with like your business and woodworking, but like anything. I think that's super valuable. And why go through your life by yourself when you can have a community to do it with? So same thing, when I found Zach, I'm like, you know what? He's doing pretty much what I want to do. He's a couple years ahead of me, or he's put in the legwork. He knows, it seems like he knows what he's doing. And I really enjoyed the way you delivered, Zach, all your stuff, especially in the early stages. And it just resonated with me. And Jared, you've been in the group since August, so just a little over a year now, right?
Right.
And when did you make the move from South to North Arkansas?
So I joined last August, and the plan was all along to move the following summer, which would have been summer of 2024. My last day at my previous job was the day before July 4th this year, and we had basically moved everything the weekend prior, and then I had to go back and work. And then basically July was like my first, like, this is what we're doing full on in the business.
Awesome. So you were sawmilling, doing the side business for basically a year, and then
Right.
you finally transitioned to full time woodworking in your new location. Tell us a little bit about the growth from where you were before the program and where you're at now with the business.
Right. So like before I got in the business, like everything I laid out earlier, that was like a very slow growth plan. Like I was very incrementally growing, and like it was not going to get me to where I needed to be. Like the year before I got in the program, I had like $30,000 total in sales, and I thought I was doing something. uh, and then um, it was just like that was just kind of about where I was at before getting in. And then I wanted to use this program to get me to where we needed to be. And I remember telling Zach, I was like, I think I need to be around like this 2025 range. Like in my intro call with Zach, I was like, this is the range I need to be in. And since moving, we have been in that range for sure. So
Do you mean like revenue? By 2025, you need to be at this much? Is that what you mean?
right.
Okay. And then you're at that goal already?
Right, which I was actually, I hit that goal the first 4 out of the first 5 months. I was doing that last year, and then it got to the be to where the point, like I was like, all right, I don't know that I can handle this down here in my garage with a job, planning on moving 300 miles away. So we kind of scaled back just a little bit, just to make life more manageable for about 6 months. And then when we got close to the time, we turned back up the wick on the ads, and we've kind of taken back off since then. So
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think it's so important and you have a lot of foresight and planning that you've, put a lot of effort into. And that is so important. And I think one of the things that when I think about your experience so far, one of the things I take away from you is having a plan is gives you so much more clarity on what you want to do, what your numbers need to look like. It helps us help you. It helps your wife and your family be involved and on the same page. But when you're winging it and just seeing what happens, you can easily get into a tailspin where you don't really know what to do and you're feeling helpless or you're feeling flustered or overwhelmed. But one thing I think in all of my exchanges with you in the last year have been you basically have your stuff together and you're not biting off more than you can chew and you've scaled strategically. So awesome job doing that.
yeah, one thing I'll add to that is in the program is you get this sheet, the growth and projector, whatever, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's the sheet that you can plug in all your stuff and like plan and uh, see what all of your expenses and everything looks like, based on your situation. And that has been like, because like you mentioned, I like planning things out and having a plan. And that was like one thing that was like very key for me. And I think it's one thing that like helps you keep grounded when you're dealing with the ups and downs.
Yeah.
Kind of like,
Mhm.
okay, like I have seen like in the down times, that was one tool I used to kind of help me keep grounded. Because you're like, okay, like I know it works, and like I just like this is what it's going to be like. Like we just got to get back up there, and like you set yourself like, okay, what are the things that I can do to get back up to this point? But that growth and projector tool, like that has been one of my favorite things about being in the program.
That's
See,
awesome. So go
real
ahead, Zach.
quick, Luke, sorry, keep your train of thought. That tool is literally what kept me that I built it for me because I was like, I don't know how to forecast in the future. I don't know how to move into a commercial space. I don't know how to hire employees or buy new equipment or do these sorts of things and not ruin myself financially. So I built this spreadsheet where I could plug and play and basically see like play out these scenarios in my mind and get an idea and get a vision for the future. And so yeah, that it was immensely helpful for me on my journey And I'm glad to hear somebody say like, yeah, this has been super helpful. So Luke,
Yeah,
back to you.
yes, and just to compound off that, when you have a forecasting tool, you can play and imagine. When you're just using your QuickBooks, your accounting stuff, it just tells you where you're at. It doesn't tell you where you're gonna be or what you could what it might look like if you got a little bit bigger or if you got a little bit busier, if you add an employee or overhead. Like the forecasting tool is great for projecting and thinking about what could happen if you got a little bit bigger or you moved to a different shop and stuff like that. So important to also look at your actuals and also look at your how your business is operating. But when you're planning and thinking about it, like you do so well, Jared, the forecasting tool I think is very, very valuable. So sorry, Luke, go ahead.
No, absolutely. And I love that tool so much. And like that's one of those things that for me breaks those glass ceilings and those limiting beliefs. Like I remember my first couple days in the program and Zach was like, "Hey, here's this thing, use this, do your thing with it." And I was like, "All right, cool." And like I start playing around, like I type in like, "Okay, what does $10,000 a month look like?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's kind of cool." And I'm like, "What does $20,000 a month look like?" And then I started like typing in numbers and I'm like, in 6 months I could be bringing home this kind of money. And I'm like, okay, now what does 10 years from now look like? And then I'll type in an outrageous number and I'll be like, this is insane, you know? And so to be able to forecast like that is crazy. And then looking back, so I've been in the program roughly a year, like it's very accurate, you know? And obviously it's a forecast and there's the actual results, but I mean like it's very, very similar of what you can actually expect. It's an accurate tool, in my opinion. So and we have a lot of good resources like that inside of the program. And so I guess my next question to you, Jared, is like, there's so much to this program. It's not just like we're an ad agency, or it's not just like we're coaching, or it's not like we're just giving you some resources. We do all of it. What have you found to be like the biggest like game changer, you know, because you have multiple coaches, you have multiple spreadsheets, you have, you know, a community with 40 plus dudes in it who are, you know, running the same kind of business. You know, what was the biggest game changer for you?
Well, it's all everything you just said. And it's the question, the answer is different at different stages. Initially, there was like two things. One was the sales, that were the ads and the sales. One of my biggest weaknesses coming into the program was sales. And this program has like helped me with that, immensely. Um, so that was like number one originally. And then also the licensing of the photos that Zach gives you when you get into the program. Uh, I don't know that I've ever mentioned this, but like the month before I got into the program, so in July 23, I knew that was one of my weaknesses in my program was that, or in my business, that I had basically built two styles of tables at that point. And I was like, I've got to get these other styles of tables out there somehow. So I did a huge giveaway on my Facebook page, one to like get some traction. And I did not one, not two, but four free tables, well, at cost tables, to try to get different styles of tables. And then a month later, like I'm just like given like all of these photos of tables that I can use. And I'm like, man, like I'm really biting myself in the butt for for this.
I did that too, Jared. I was watching Bourbon Moth a couple years ago, and he mentioned how that's how he got started. So that's like I was like, I'll do that. So custom built for cost. But yeah, getting just a catalog of 10, 15 styles that look good that you can build. They're fairly simple to do. And then having people in the group that can tell you how to do it when you do make a sale, it's pretty cool.
One thing I'll just kind of give you kudos for, Jared, is that when Jared first came into the program, he's right. He struggled to sell, I think, initially, and like really worked through giving quotes and doing those sorts of things. But you like took to it like a fish to water. I mean, it was. And what's cool about this is I think a lot of guys feel overwhelmed by this when they first come into the program. Like, man, I got to learn how to sell. This is a giant endeavor, a giant process. And I will say that probably the first 30 days it is difficult to do, but once you've got it, you've got it. It's one of those things that like Jared doesn't ever really need a lot of feedback now on sales because he understands how to negotiate. He understands how to pull out objections out of the customer And so Jared has just been crushing it for a long time now. I mean, you've been steady Eddie in the program for a really long time as far as sales are concerned. There's been some ups and downs, but I think for the most part, you've done really, really well, staying consistent, staying steady, and getting a good return on all the money that you've invested into the advertising. Um, so biggest game changer out of the gate was sales, obviously. And that's really, I'll say that for everybody. Like if you come into the program and you don't really apply yourself and get better at sales, then it's all for naught. You know, you can learn, you can have all the spreadsheets and the systems and the coaching in the world around building stuff, but if you can't get cash, you can't get a deposit, it becomes very difficult to, number one, just financially stay in the program because you're paying, you know, we don't have a cheap program. It's you're paying for um, a lot of coaching, a lot of you know, we're running the ads for you, we're managing all that for you. Um, so once you've started growing and you started getting more predictable sales, and I'm assuming ads gave you that. You know, you talked about it was kind of unpredictable. The ads gave you a little bit more predictability. From that point, what was the biggest game changer?
I would say it's two things that were kind of related. One is the coaching. Um, like you mentioned, like now I really don't like ask like a ton of stuff, but it's still like there and available. But there was a time period where I was going through some issues with some sales, and like Keith kind of like dove in, looked at my stuff, and I was like being way too literal with the sales script. Um, and he's like, you just gotta like shorten this up. Like you've got this customer that's like you basically drove away because you were like asking way too many questions.
Right.
And so like they kind of can help you and point you in the right direction. And I think that's been one thing that's helped was kind of like I think this phrase y'all use is speed to money. Um,
Mm.
that's been helpful. Got that through the coaching. And then just keeping doing that. And also the thing with that is these guys are going through this with you. It's not like I mentioned earlier with you, like both Luke and Keith, like they're running their own businesses. They're facing these same issues alongside with you. So they've got firsthand experience in this. Related to that is that there's 40 other people across the country that's in this group that are doing the same thing, experiencing the same things with you, uh, and they all have different experiences. And there's like some really awesome guys in the group. Like at the time we're recording this yesterday, you just dropped the Jordan Tate one, and like
Mhm.
that's one of the guys. Not to like point out one guy specifically, but like that's one guy in the group that like when he talks, you listen.
Mhm.
And that guy's in Idaho, and I'm in Arkansas. There's no other way that I would have like been able to learn from that guy. And like I said, one of my biggest weaknesses was sales, and that's one of his biggest strengths. So like I've always like gravitated to whenever he's talking because I'm like he knows what he's talking about. So, but there's other people in the group that have good experiences in other areas that can help you out. So both of those very related. And like I mentioned a second ago, your needs and your issues change as you grow. And there's guys in all phases of the business in that group uh, that you can reach out to and help you through. So
It's
I
good.
would say the coaching and the people that are in the group.
Nice. So you've already mentioned it a little bit, but give us a real definitive, like this is what my monthly income kind of looked like before joining the program, and then this is what my average income has been the last couple months. And then you also recently set a personal record, which we'd love to hear about that too. So
Don't hold out on us, Jared.
Yeah. So like I mentioned earlier, like the year before I got in the program, I did like 30,000 total in sales, like for the whole year. And then I started off pretty good in the program, I had hit 10, 12X for the first 5 months. And then we kind of had, like I did 20 to 15K all those first 5 months. That was September when we started running the ads through January. And then, like I said, we kind of scaled things back just so I could like manage life a little better for the move. And so we dropped ad spend. I changed the name of the business from Breedlove Woodworking. and we moved. So there was a lot of like change happening in about a 5 to 6 month time period. And that's when I kind of saw things go down. But I was still getting like 5 to 6x during that time. You know, like I think y'all mentioned it, like 5 to 6x, you know, compared to other people is still pretty great.
Right.
So you have to kind of keep your expectations like remember that at times. That we're talking about like anything less than 10x being bad.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And then there was an important lesson I learned the month that I moved. I did not have like great follow-up rhythms. Also, we were moving. The month that I left my job, I went almost the entire month without a sale. But we kept spending money, you know, in the ads, and I kept on my plan. My plan was to be around. I had actually like changed my plan. I originally said 20 to 25K. Well, after like being in the program, I was like, okay, I really want to be around 30K when we move per month in sales. So I just stayed on that plan, and then the first month after July, which was August, I was like, I'm going to spend 3K, 10x 30,000. We were a little bit short of that in August, but like I said, I almost went the whole month in July with no sales. I got one like the last minute. Did 20,000 in August on a 3K ad spend, and in September things really got like really kind of blew up, and I hit a personal record of 38K last month. And at the time of this podcast, we're like just a week into October, and we just started ads yesterday. And before ads start, I'm already at like 11K for the month before the ads even start.
Right.
Yeah, that tends to happen with the buying cycles of the people that buy our price point. They don't just see you and buy. They take 30 days to research you, talk to you initially. You'll get some bullets that are, you know, quick to the draw and want to, you know, buy your table. But most of the people that in our target market and the people that buy this type of furniture will take 30, 60, 90 days. So
Yeah.
it makes sense that you started the scale back in July, you said,
Yeah,
and that you've gotten you are now reaping the benefits of that upfront cost in the grind of the sales process. So that makes sense. Kind of like
yeah,
Jordan last month with his giant month. He did the same
yeah,
thing for the
yeah.
3 months prior. He was really scaling his ad spend.
Yeah, you guys weren't going to tell me that I was going to follow him up with this 90K.
I know, right? Well, and also just so everybody knows, on the podcast, when it was the day before the last day, just to throw this in here, Jordan said he was at like 82,000. Well, he closed another like 2 or 3 sales at the end of the month. He ended up at 89,000 and some change. And so Jordan had just a crazy month. It was a record-breaking month in the program. But for you, Jared, one thing I want to just want to highlight and make this plain to the people listening to this. The whole year prior to the program, you did $30,000. Last month, you did $38,000 in the program.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's incredible. That's awesome. So do you feel like you've missed a beat moving from South Arkansas to Northwest Arkansas? Do you feel like there was anything in that obviously there was a little bit of a lull because there was so much change? Your headspace, I'm sure, felt crazy just with all the change and getting your family settled and all that. But do you feel like you've been able to kind of pivot into a different market and still succeed, obviously? So
Yeah, being in this program, like that was the reason why I got into the program, was to help me through the transition and then get me and to grow the business afterwards. And I think I was just talking to my wife about this. I was like 2 years ago, like, you know, we were planning for all this, and really this program was like the key into helping make everything we were like praying and hoping about happen. And this program like did exactly what I was wanting to help us transition and move, because it's not easy to just like pick up and move 300 miles away
yeah.
and hit the ground running.
Yeah, that's awesome. The other thing just to mention here, and I'll let these other guys ask some questions in a second, but the other thing to mention is that, you know, James and James Furniture, which is like the behemoth in our industry, is in Northwest Arkansas. Like In 2022, I don't know what they did last year in 2023 or 24, but in 2022 they did 28 million top line. So they're a big custom furniture company, probably the biggest that started in their garage like us and have grown. And so I'm sure that was a little scary, a little intimidating, like I'm moving into their territory. And but you've also been able to really carve out a space and hit your goals, hit your numbers. So for anybody that may be afraid of that, like there's a big competitor in my area, um, I don't know that this will work. The beauty of what we do is you don't have to sell hundreds of people. You got to sell. Your $38,000 a month last month, you probably had what, 10 clients, 15 clients max, maybe. And so very attainable for just normal guys like us. And so, Luke, I'll let you ask some more questions.
Yeah, so I guess I'm a super like goal-oriented guy, And so like what are some of your goals moving forward in the business? You got your rhythm in your new space and you're rocking and rolling. So what does the future hold for you and your business?
So I would say my goal kind of changed about 3 months ago. Um, I like had like very like high aspirations, but then like whenever like I leave my job, almost have no sales for the whole month. It kind of like gives you like a reality check a little bit. Uh, and I made like my goal like was number one priority like to grow a sustainable business that provides for me and my family's income and like takes care of me and my family. So that like just became the number one goal of the business. And then, but like there's goals behind that how you do that. I originally wanted to grow like pretty big. Now I kind of want to get to around the like 35, 40K per month. And that kind of like would tap me out in the location that I'm at.
You mean like doing that solo, doing that as a solo with one part-time guy or like a small
Well,
shop?
that when I say I want to get to 35K, 35, 40 consistently, I want to be able to bring in like one or two full-time guys that can remove me from the production side of the shop,
Mm.
and move me more into the administrative sales side and focus on growing the company, which is actually what's become more enjoyable about the business. You move from, I think you said, Zach, on your podcast a few times, like death to the woodworker. I forget the phrase, but like,
Birth
got
to
to,
the entrepreneur.
yeah. So uh,
Yeah.
the more fun side, and that's what I want to grow into and kind of remove myself from the shop. And that's the sales range that I think I need to hit to make that happen.
Yeah, things get a little more fun, a little more flexible when you're north of 30, as far as like bringing on help and still having some leftover. That's definitely been that's definitely going to be a change for you, Jared, is getting employees and getting into the systems now. Because when you're solo, you can control everything. You can control the pace. You know everything as the business owner. The expectations are there in front of you because you understand them because you made them. And it's when you bring on employees and help and you add some complexity to the business that can very, very often be challenging. And that's one thing I still lean on Zach. I'm calling Luke way more frequently this past month with my current situation with the shop. But it's good to have the community to lean on and I'm excited for you.
Me too. Me too.
So, quick question. You've obviously come into the program and done well. One thing that I can speak to for you is always keeping a positive attitude, even when things you haven't had a couple months that were rough months, especially that month you quit your job and it's like, all right, here we go, and nothing, So you've kept a positive attitude, you kept your head on, kept it on straight. What would you say is the biggest difference from the guys that have come to the program and done well and succeeded, and those that have come and gone and did not find the success they were looking for inside the program? What have you just picked up on or maybe seen the differences between those two groups of people?
So I would say the people that like delve in and do what the program teaches, don't just like pick and choose to do the things is like, oh, I'm not going to do that. Now you can look at it and be like, all right, like like y'all have said, there's a lot to digest, and you're not like some of those parts you can kind of get to a little bit later as you grow. Don't just ignore it. Don't just say you're not doing that. But the people that like fully take in and involve yourself in the program are the ones that stick around and succeed. And like I reach out to like Luke and Keith when I have like an issue, but and I'm not the best at this, but I do see the people that are more involved in the chat and the Slack channel. Like it's the same guys the guys that you see in there are the ones that are like sticking around and doing it. Like I said, I'm not the best at like being outward in the group, but like I do most of my stuff with like Luke and Keith because I'm just not the guy that like
Yeah.
out.
There's some people don't hit up the public forum, the group forum
Right.
as much. The private chats, the coaches chats, keep it to yourself kind of thing. That's totally normal and totally fine as well. So just because you're posting in the general chat doesn't mean you're going to be successful either. But generally, the more successful people are the ones that are asking for help, leading with a weakness. Hey, how can I improve this? What are you guys' thoughts on this? Hey, this is what I just priced this custom table for. What would you guys have done it for? Just to get that assurance so you can keep moving, right? I think that really helps a lot of people in the group.
All right. So a couple more questions and we'll let you go. But what other than the program, what are some other resources? What are some other books? What are some other thoughts or ideas that have really helped you as a business owner? So this can be like book recommendations. This can be other podcasts, maybe. This can be just other resources or advice maybe that you've gotten that was a game changer for you along the way.
So a couple of books, and I feel like it gets mentioned all the time in this program is the E-Myth Revisited. That one was like a game changer in how I viewed my business and taking it from like running the business to like your product being the product to the business is your product. That's a game changer in just like how you view it. And I'm not currently sold on if I want to sell the business one day or not, but the principles in growing a business to sell is still like great for growing your business.
Right.
So even if you don't want to, you can still apply those principles from that book. That is a great one for business. I think another one just because they're so related to it's not exactly a business book, but the Rich Dad Poor Dad, like that's a great one just in managing like how you view money basically and assets. Those are like two great books. I think start there. And for me, I got one more. And this was recommended by Jordan Tate one time. I was looking for help with sales, and I was like, I just need like some good sales books. And it was called. He recommended one book called "The Greatest Salesman on Earth" or something like it. It's like the greatest salesman
in the world, I think is what
Yes.
it's called. Greatest salesman in the world. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember reading the book. I was like, this is just like a story. And then I like got the point. And I was like, okay, like you don't have to be some slimy salesman. Like, salesman doesn't being good in sales doesn't mean you have to be like this slimy, like hair slick kind of guy. Yeah. Like just be a good person. And I think Luke's, great in sales, and that's something I've picked up from him too. But that's kind of the gist of that book is like, you just be a good person.
Yeah. If you really are trying to just help people with what they're trying to find, what they're trying to do, and you're kind and communicative, and you need a little bit of skills, so you need to be able to pull out their objections and be like, okay, what's keeping you? You tell me everything's good, but we're not paying. So how do I get them from, oh yeah, everything sounds good, to actually putting down a deposit? And that's pulling out objections. Where are you guys at on this? We're ready. I'm excited to get started on it for you. Do you have any other questions, hesitations, thoughts, concerns? Being able to pull that out so you can address it, super, super important. And then, keeping a little bit of negotiating power along the way. So, when you're quoting jobs, giving yourself a little bit of a buffer to meet somebody in the middle if they come in with a budget underneath where you're quoting them. So if you're quoting them at, say, $3,000, well, knowing that you're profitable at 2,600, right, or 2,500. Oh, well, I don't, and then they say, oh, well, we only had a $2,000 budget, or a $2,100 budget. you're at 3 grand. Well, you can still meet them in the middle somewhere and still be profitable uh, as per your calculations, So there's techniques and strategies with sales, but behind all that, it's still actually caring about the person and meeting the needs of the people. And so, well, man, Jared, just to wrap up here, I just want to honor you big because you have been, like I said, you've been in the program for a while now. You're over a year in the program. You've been methodical and thoughtful, and with that, you've also been very patient. That's one thing that I will say about Jared, and that a lot of guys that are, fired up and ready to go sometimes miss is that Jared works really hard on the day-to-day basis, but is also very long-term minded. And so he's been able to weather storms because he can see like this is a part of the process. I had a bad month last month, but that's okay. This month we're going to pivot around. Here's some ways that I can get better. Here's some things that I can do to improve. He's very open about his communication without assigning blame. That's one of the things that sometimes guys will be in the program and they're rocking and rolling, they're doing great, and they have a bad month, and it's Keith and Luke and Zach's fault, that things aren't working. So first of all, I want to appreciate you for your attitude that you've always had. You've had an incredibly positive attitude from the get-go. I know you're a man that loves the Lord. You lead your family well. I always want to show honor there. I think that matters more than growing businesses, more than making money. Is keeping the main things and not getting in over your head to where you're sacrificing a lifetime thing that God gave you for a temporary thing that you have in a business. And so, but just your mentality, the way that you've approached it, the way that you've stayed consistent and stayed steady, kudos to you, sir. I'm very grateful for your involvement in the business and or in the program. And I'm glad to see you winning. I like seeing guys like you win. So. But okay, so where can people go to find you?
You can find us on Facebook, Beloved Furniture. Search us there. We have a website, belovedfurniture.com. Those are really the two main places. Working kind of on getting into like Google and trying to grow that so I can be more of a prominent, trying to work on my SEO. I'm in the very infant stages of that. So
Gotcha. So is it beloved? Is it BELOVED?
yeah, Beloved Furniture.
Beloved Furniture. All right. Just to make sure that that Arkansas Southern twang ear is a little
Yeah.
quick on the draw on that word. So
I was gonna ask too, Zach. You asked before I did.
I understand. So Arkansas Brothers Unite, I got your back. And so, well, Keith, Luke, you guys got anything else?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to fly you out to Virginia, and you can do one of these cool accent walls in the back of my shop.
Yeah.
I want to feel like I'm working in a cabin when I come to my shop.
What I'm appreciating sitting here looking is this piece of trim that is scribed perfectly to the stone.
Noticed that. Yeah.
That's what I'm appreciating. Like, ooh, he got
That
out
was not fun.
he got out the washer with the pencil and then jigsawed that puppy perfectly, and it's up against the stone. It looks awesome. So
It was for like trial and error about 50 times.
Yeah, one through five boards.
Hey, but you don't tell anybody that.
No.
Yeah, we knew exactly what we were doing, right? So, well, man, as always, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you want to connect with Jared or any of us here on the show, be sure to reach out to him. Feel free to ask him about the program. Ask him about the wins, the losses. It's not, again, we'll say this and we'll keep saying this. It's not a perfect printing money strategy. You're still going to work. You're probably going to work harder than you've ever worked before, but we're going to give you a roadmap that's really clear. And we're going to be there to support you every step of the way. So if you have any questions about the Woodworking Business Accelerator program, reach out. But Jared is one of many stories like this of guys that have come in, and I hear it all the time. They're like, yeah, in a couple years, I hope to be doing this. And it's like, 4 months later, they find themselves. And but with that, appreciate you guys. Love you guys. And be sure to comment. Let us know what you thought about this episode. If you're tired of Luke, just let us know. I got to tease Luke. Me and
Luke.
Yeah. I was a little bit late hopping on the call, and so Luke and Keith, but I'll read their messages. Still in makeup, he's getting his beauty sleep was Luke's message, and then Keith was he's still in makeup and hair. So I said, yes, makeup and hair is almost done. So all right. But anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. Love and appreciate you, and we'll see you in the next one.